A frontiersman on the American frontier, between 1800 and 1890, carried a specific array of weapons not as a matter of choice, but of absolute necessity. These implements were essential for survival against the omnipresent threats of the untamed wilderness, a reliance on hunting for sustenance, the constant possibility of ambush by hostile forces, the complete absence of formal law enforcement for hundreds of miles, and the violent disputes that often arose over land claims or resources. The popular narratives of rugged independence often overlook the brutal calculus of risk. A misfired flintlock meant starvation, a dull axe meant freezing, and a misplaced knife meant defenselessness. Someone might ask which weapon really stood between life and an unmarked grave in those harsh decades. Watch to the end. You will learn about the precise tools and the deep knowledge underlying their use, which shaped daily life. The American long rifle, often called the Kentucky rifle or Pennsylvania rifle, was the primary firearm of the early to mid-19th century frontier. This was a single-shot, muzzle-loading flintlock, or later percussion cap rifle, typically chambered for 32 to 54 caliber round lead balls. Its defining characteristic was its long, heavy barrel, often exceeding 40 inches. This length was crucial for achieving high muzzle velocity and exceptional accuracy at distances beyond 100 yards, a necessity for ethical hunting of deer, elk, and bear, and for defense against distant threats. The rifled bore, with its spiraling grooves, imparted a spin to the projectile, ensuring gyroscopic stability and a flat trajectory. The tighter the twist rate, the more rapid the spin, which translated directly into improved accuracy over distance. Early long rifles often featured a slow twist, optimized for the round lead balls that were easy to cast in the field. Use of the long rifle was almost exclusively for hunting and long-range defense. A frontiersman would meticulously prepare his ammunition: a precise powder charge, a greased linen or buckskin patch, and a carefully cast lead ball. This slow-loading process, taking upwards of 30 seconds for a skilled user, meant that every shot counted. The patch, often lubricated with bear grease or tallow, served a dual purpose. It created a gas seal behind the ball, maximizing pressure, and simultaneously cleaned out powder fouling with each shot, helping to maintain accuracy. Maintenance was rigorous. After each day of use, the barrel was cleaned with hot, soapy water, then dried and oiled to prevent rust. This daily ritual prevented the corrosive black powder residue from pitting the steel bore, which would degrade accuracy and eventually render the rifle useless. Flintlock mechanisms required regular attention to the flint, frizzen, and pan, ensuring proper ignition, while percussion systems needed clean nipples to allow the cap's flash to reach the powder. Customization was common, with gunsmiths or the users themselves carving intricate designs into the wooden stocks and inlaying silver or brass patches. These patch boxes, often elaborate, were not just decorative, but provided convenient storage for spare flints, patches, and small tools. Regional variations existed. Rifles from Pennsylvania often featured more ornate patch boxes and refined aesthetics, reflecting a more established gunsmithing tradition, while those from the Appalachian Mountains might be plainer, but equally effective, built for rugged utility. This rifle was a tool of precision, patience, and survival, not rapid engagement, demanding a deep understanding of its mechanics and a disciplined approach to its use. Have you ever heard of such meticulous daily rifle maintenance? Share your thoughts. We'd love to see where you're watching from. While the long rifle dominated for distance, the flintlock or percussion pistol served a distinct, critical role for the frontiersman: close quarters defense and personal protection. These were typically single-shot, large caliber, 45 to 69 firearms, carried primarily by those who might find themselves in unexpected, immediate danger, such as trappers, traders, or individuals traveling alone on precarious trails. Unlike the rifle, pistols were not generally hunting tools due to their limited accuracy and effective range, rarely exceeding 25-30 yards with any reliability. Their purpose was deterrent or last resort defense in situations where reloading a rifle was impossible or impractical, such as a sudden ambush or a struggle. A common type was the trade pistol, often less refined than civilian models, designed for durability and simplicity rather than intricate craftsmanship. These were frequently supplied by trading companies for bartering with Native American tribes. Later, as technology advanced, percussion cap pistols became significantly more reliable in damp conditions than their flintlock predecessors, as the enclosed cap protected the primer from moisture and simplified the ignition process. Reloading a single-shot pistol was as slow as a rifle, emphasizing the need for decisive first shots and a cool head under pressure. Carried in a belt holster or tucked into a waistband, pistols provided a sense of immediate, if limited, power and a psychological advantage. They saw use in unexpected encounters with hostile individuals, dangerous animals at close range, or as a means of personal defense during disagreements that escalated rapidly, where a visible firearm could sometimes de-escalate a situation before a shot was fired. Cultural variations were less pronounced than with rifles, though some individuals favored larger horse pistols for mounted travel, providing a heavier, more stable platform from horseback. The pistol was a statement of readiness, a small package of kinetic energy for moments when negotiation was no longer an option, offering a desperate chance at survival in sudden, close-range confrontations. But what if a single pistol shot wasn't enough, and a quick follow-up was needed? The answer to that would fundamentally change personal defense on the frontier. The belt axe, often interchangeably called a tomahawk, was an indispensable tool and weapon, intimately linked to the frontiersman's daily existence. Far more than just a weapon, its primary utility was as a versatile implement for campcraft, construction, and resource gathering. Typically weighing between 1 and 2 pounds with a handle length of 12 to 20 inches, it featured a sharp cutting edge and often a hammer pole or spike on the opposite side. This dual functionality made it incredibly efficient for a life lived on the move. Its uses were extensive: felling small trees for firewood and shelter poles, splitting kindling with controlled precision, shaping wood for repairs on wagons or cabins, preparing game by splitting bones or opening carcasses, and even driving stakes for tents or traps. In combat, it served as a formidable close-quarters weapon, capable of devastating cuts or crushing blows. Its inherent balance allowed for effective throwing, both for felling small game that might be out of reach or as a disorienting, last-resort tactic against a human adversary, though direct throwing was less common than its use as a handheld bludgeon or cutter due to the risk of losing the tool. The belt axe was carried either tucked into a belt, secured for quick draw, or suspended from a loop on a pack. Maintenance involved frequent sharpening with natural stones found in stream beds or purpose-made whetstones to keep the edge razor-sharp for efficient woodcraft and butchering tasks. Handles were often custom-fitted, shaped by the user from durable hardwoods like hickory or ash, ensuring a comfortable grip that minimized fatigue during prolonged use and providing optimal leverage. Regional preferences existed. Some areas favored a hammer pole for practical use, allowing it to function as a hammer for driving nails or tent pegs, while others might prefer a spike for more aggressive combat applications or for piercing through tough materials. The belt axe was a tool of constant utility, always within reach, bridging the gap between weapon and indispensable everyday aid, a true symbol of frontier self-reliance. The hunting knife was arguably the most constantly used and indispensable tool carried by a frontiersman. Unlike the large theatrical Bowie knives often depicted in fiction, which gained popularity later and were often more suited for fighting, the typical frontier hunting knife was a practical, fixed-blade tool, usually with a blade length ranging from 6 to 10 inches. Its design prioritized utility, featuring a sturdy, often high-carbon steel blade with a full tang, meaning the blade material extended through the entire handle. This construction ensured it could withstand rigorous use without breaking or the blade separating from the handle, a critical failure in a survival situation. Its functions were manifold: skinning and butchering game with precision, preparing food by slicing meat or vegetables, cutting rope or leather for repairs, carving wood for traps, shelters, or tool handles, and even rudimentary surgical tasks when no other medical aid was available, such as lancing boils or removing splinters. As a weapon, it was a last resort defense in grappling situations or for quiet, close-quarters encounters where firearms were impractical or had failed. The sheath, usually made of rawhide or tanned leather, and sometimes treated with tallow for water resistance, was worn on the belt for quick access, ensuring the knife was always at hand. Maintenance involved constant sharpening on natural whetstones, as a dull blade was a dangerous and inefficient one, prone to slipping and causing injury. A frontiersman relied on his knife for nearly every task, from detailed carving to heavy-duty cutting, and understood the exact angles needed to maintain its edge through countless hours of use. Regional variations were subtle, often reflecting available materials or local blacksmithing traditions, with some knives featuring bone, antler, or wooden handles, sometimes with simple adornments. The hunting knife was a direct extension of the hand, a tool of constant, intimate use, and a critical component of daily survival, embodying the versatility and adaptability required for life on the frontier. But how did a frontiersman treat a deep, festering wound in the wilderness, miles from any form of medical assistance? That knowledge was as vital as the blade itself. The functionality of any firearm on the frontier depended entirely on the availability and condition of black powder, lead, and primers. Black powder, a mixture of charcoal, providing the fuel, sulfur, lowering ignition temperature, and potassium nitrate, the oxidizer, was the universal propellant from 1800 to the 1870s when smokeless powder began to appear. It was highly susceptible to moisture, which could render it inert or significantly reduce its effectiveness, necessitating careful storage. Frontiersmen carried their powder in waterproof powder horns made from hollowed-out animal horn, often sealed with a wooden plug or in sealed metal flasks designed to keep moisture out. Lead, typically in the form of precast round balls for rifles and pistols, was carried in a bullet pouch along with lubricated patches. The round ball, though less aerodynamically efficient than later conical bullets, was simple to cast in the field using a basic bullet mold and a campfire. The patches, often made of greased linen, buckskin, or cotton, ensured a tight fit in the barrel, creating a gas seal and imparting spin to the ball while also helping to clean the bore. Melting lead over a campfire to cast new balls was a common evening task, crucial for replenishing ammunition after hunting or a confrontation. For percussion firearms post-1830s, percussion caps were tiny copper cups containing fulminate of mercury, a shock-sensitive compound that ignited the main powder charge when struck by the hammer. These also had to be kept absolutely dry, often in small sealed tins or pouches. The precise measurement of powder charges using a small brass or antler powder measure was crucial for consistent accuracy and to prevent dangerous overloads. Too little powder meant a weak shot that might not penetrate its target. Too much could create excessive pressure, risking a burst barrel or dangerous recoil. The ability to manage and protect these components in harsh conditions, understanding the nuances of different powder grinds, e.g., coarser FEGG for rifles, finer FFOG for pistols, and even finer FFOG for priming pans, and their effects on ballistic performance was as critical as the firearm itself. Without them, the rifle was simply a heavy club, useless for its primary purpose of providing sustenance and protection. In the absence of manufactured arms or during unexpected disarming, the frontiersman's ingenuity often led to the creation of improvised and makeshift weapons. These were tools of desperation, born from immediate necessity and the materials at hand, reflecting a brutal pragmatism in life-or-death situations. A sturdy walking stick could be quickly fashioned into a formidable quarterstaff, its length providing reach and leverage, capable of breaking bones or deflecting blows from an attacker. A heavy rock wrapped securely in cloth or leather, or even simply gripped, became a crude but effective blunt instrument for close-quarters combat. Agricultural tools readily available on any homestead or farm could be repurposed with deadly efficiency. A pitchfork transformed into a dangerous, multi-pronged spear capable of keeping an adversary at bay. An axe handle, when detached from its head, became a powerful club. Even more mundane items like a heavy frying pan or a shovel, swung with force, could deter an attacker or inflict significant injury. The principle behind these weapons was kinetic energy transfer, maximizing mass and velocity to deliver a devastating impact. Their effectiveness relied entirely on the user's raw strength, agility, and willingness to engage in brutal, close-quarters combat. These were not preferred weapons, but testaments to the constant threat and the ingenuity required for survival when formal armament was lost, broken, or unavailable. They represented the raw, unrefined potential for violence inherent in a life lived without the thin veneer of distant civilization, highlighting the constant state of readiness demanded by the frontier. But what happened when a frontiersman was disarmed entirely, with nothing but his bare hands and wits to rely on? Watch the video below to find out the answer to this question. The shotgun held a specific and increasingly important place on the frontier, particularly for homesteaders and settlers engaged in farming or protecting property where precision rifle fire was less relevant. Unlike the precise long-range rifle, the shotgun was a close-range weapon designed to deliver a wide spread of projectiles, making it highly effective against multiple targets, fast-moving small game, or for defense within limited spaces like a cabin or barn. These were typically single or double-barreled muzzle loaders, firing lead shot, numerous small pellets, or larger, single-lead slugs. The lack of rifling in the barrel allowed the shot pattern to spread rapidly after leaving the muzzle. Its primary uses included hunting birds and small game without needing precise aim, making it ideal for putting food on the table quickly. Crucially, it was invaluable for close-quarters defense against human intruders or large, aggressive animals that might suddenly appear. The wide pattern of shot made it forgiving of aim in stressful situations, increasing the likelihood of hitting a moving target. Reloading, while still a muzzle-loading process, was often quicker than a rifle, as less precision was required for the powder and shot charge, often simply poured directly into the barrel. Maintenance mirrored rifles, focusing on barrel cleanliness and keeping the firing mechanism dry to ensure reliable ignition. Shotguns were less common among deep woodsmen or long-range hunters due to their weight and limited effective range for larger game, but were invaluable for those establishing permanent settlements, where defending fixed positions or dispatching pests was common. Their devastating power at close range made them a formidable deterrent, a loud and undeniable statement of armed presence on one's property, designed for immediate and impactful defense. As the 19th century progressed, particularly after the mid-century, the emergence of the Derringer and other pocket pistols offered a new dimension of self-defense, discreet, easily concealed contingency. These were typically small, single, or double-barreled percussion or rimfire pistols, chambered in calibers from 22 to 41. Their compact size meant very limited range and accuracy, usually effective only at a few feet, and typically offered only 1 or 2 shots before a slow, deliberate reload was required. They were designed for desperate, immediate encounters, not prolonged gunfights. Their purpose was not open combat, but rather as a last-ditch defensive tool when ambushed, or in situations where larger weapons were impractical or forbidden, such as within a crowded saloon or during a formal meeting where a visible firearm would be inappropriate. Carried in vests, coat pockets, or discreet holsters, they offered a degree of personal security, a hidden ace in the hole. They were popular among gamblers, merchants, and those who preferred to avoid conspicuous displays of force, but still desired a means of self-preservation in a world without consistent law enforcement. Maintenance was minimal due to their simple design, often just requiring cleaning the bore and firing pin, but reliability depended heavily on dry ammunition and functional primers. While a far cry from the power and range of a rifle or even a full-size revolver, the Derringer represented a silent, often unseen, layer of defense, offering a desperate, close-range chance in an unexpected, life-threatening confrontation. Its very existence suggested a world where trust was fleeting and danger could emerge from any shadow, but how effective could a tiny, single-shot pistol truly be against multiple assailants? Watch the video below to find out the answer to this question. By the mid to late 19th century, particularly on the vast expanse of the Great Plains, specialized long-range firearms emerged, epitomized by the Sharps rifle and other buffalo guns. These were heavy, powerful, single-shot breech-loading rifles, often chambered in large calibers such as 45 to 70 government, 50-70 government, or the potent 50-90 Sharps. Their immense power and exceptional accuracy at extreme ranges, often beyond 500 yards with skilled shooters achieving hits at 1,000 yards or more, made them ideal for commercial buffalo hunting, military sniping, and long-range frontier defense. Their sheer knockdown power was necessary for bringing down large, resilient game like bison. Unlike earlier muzzleloaders, the Sharps used self-contained metallic cartridges, significantly speeding up reloading. The brass cartridge casing held the powder, bullet, and primer as a single unit, allowing a shooter to simply insert a fresh round into the breech, close it, and fire. While still single shot, this allowed for much faster follow-up shots compared to the laborious process of pouring powder and seating a ball down the muzzle. They were primarily carried by professional hunters who supplied meat and hides, soldiers engaged in long-range engagements, and specialized frontier scouts who needed to observe and engage threats from a distance. Their considerable weight, often 10-15 pounds, sometimes more with heavy barrels, made them less practical for quick maneuvering or daily carry by a typical homesteader. But this mass also absorbed recoil and contributed to their stability and accuracy from a prone or rested position. Maintenance involved cleaning the breech mechanism and bore to prevent fouling from black powder, but was less cumbersome than muzzle loaders that required swabbing the barrel from the muzzle end. These rifles were symbols of the industrialized frontier, enabling large-scale resource exploitation and defining the nature of long-range engagements on the open plains, representing the apex of single-shot rifle technology before the widespread adoption of repeaters. While often overlooked in discussions of frontier weapons, traps and snares were crucial tools of survival, acting as passive weapons for procuring food and, in rare circumstances, for defense. These mechanisms leveraged mechanical advantage and a detailed understanding of animal behavior, rather than direct human confrontation. Deadfall traps utilized a heavy log or stone, often weighing hundreds of pounds, propped up by a delicate interlocking trigger mechanism. Designed to crush an animal when the bait or trigger stick was disturbed, they relied on the raw power of gravity. Snares were loops of rope, twisted plant fibers, raw hide or later wire, set to constrict around an animal's limb or neck, often pulled taut by a bent sapling or a suspended counterweight. Their primary use was for hunting small to medium-sized game, rabbits, squirrels, foxes, even deer, to supplement the diet and provide valuable furs for trade or clothing. This was a consistent, low-effort method of obtaining resources when ammunition was scarce, hunting conditions were poor, or active hunting was impractical due to other pressing tasks. While not typically set for human targets, a large, well-placed deadfall or a concealed snare could certainly injure or deter an intruder, making them a subtle form of perimeter defense for a camp or homestead. Construction required detailed knowledge of local flora for materials, e.g., strong vines for snares, specific wood for deadfall triggers, precise observation of animal trails and habits, and a fundamental understanding of basic physics to ensure effective and humane operation. Traps were set and checked regularly, sometimes daily, a testament to the frontiersman's deep understanding of the environment and reliance on indirect methods for survival. These were the silent, hidden weapons of the wilderness, always working, always providing, embodying a sophisticated blend of ecological knowledge and practical engineering. The array of weapons carried by American frontier settlers between 1800 and 1890 reveals a profound reality. Life was a constant negotiation with danger. These weren't merely tools for aggression, but indispensable instruments of survival, each selected for its utility in hunting, defense, and the sheer labor of forging a life in unforgiving wilderness. These weapons underscore a mindset shaped by acute necessity, where every item had to serve multiple purposes and every shot counted. They speak to a time when technological limitations meant slow reloads, and the consequences of a misfire were dire. The frontier settlers' armory was a pragmatic response to a world where nature was untamed, resources were contested, and human conflicts were often settled by the direct application of force. What does the stark pragmatism of these tools tell us about human resilience? Share your thoughts on the survival mindset of this era in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into the unvarnished realities of history.